Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good, good.
Good. Hello, Theo. I've met Theo
Hi.
on
Yes, we
Tuesday, so
met.
hello again.
Hello.
It is
Hi.
really nice to see you in person. It is always great to see you guys in person. All right, super. So, welcome to our session. Today, we have a lot of things to tell you. So, we wanted to have a quick start. Today, Caro and I will be discussing some interesting topics. This is our agenda for today. First of all, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about us, about our experience. So you get to know a little bit about us and what we did in the US, right? We're also going to have some information on the timeline. So what you should be doing right now. We are in April, moving on to May very soon. So there are some things that you would need to be paying attention to at this time of the year. But the first and actually the main topic for today's presentation has to do with step one, which is researching your options and finding your best fit. So we are going to talk a lot about that today. And one special guest is joining us, Giuliano Ricetta from one of our programs. He was an Opportunity Fund student in 2020, maybe one of the most challenging years for all of us. He did his bachelor's degree in Pomona College, and now he's about to start his PhD at University of Wisconsin-Madison. So there are a lot of things that he can share about his experience in the US. And also, you will get to ask questions about his pathway and everything or anything you would like to know. And we think this is one of the most, fun and engaging ways to get to know a little bit more about this process. So again, as always, we always have some information about our programs too, and we can discuss any questions you might have as regards the session. Okay, so we're going to tell you about our adventures some years ago. So this is a way of, kind of introducing myself real quick. My name is Emil, so you know that already. But I am an English teacher, right? So I have been teaching English for many, many, many years. It's one of my passions. I love English. I love teaching. I love getting to know students. I love working for you and with you to achieve your objectives. So I am very glad to be here with you. But I was also, helping younger students. I worked in a primary school for many, many years, first as a teacher, then as a coordinator. And the fun thing about that is that now I get to see students that I would teach when they were very young, trying to get to US universities. So that kind of blows my mind every time that happens. I got a scholarship. That's how I got involved into international education. So Fulbright has a program for English teachers. In this program, you get to spend one academic year in the US teaching Spanish. So that's what I did. I went to Hamline University, which is the pennant you see there in the photo. Hamline Pipers, that's the mascot. And I got such an amazing time. I taught Spanish, but I also took some courses there on linguistics, American culture, American history, feminine studies, which was kind of, surprising to find that I could do in the United States. And that experience was, just life-changing. I got to know a lot of students and a lot of people from other places in the world. So I definitely, when I came back, I said, well, I have to recommend this program to everyone. So every teacher that I thought had this curiosity on going to the United States, I would say you should apply to this scholarship. And now I get to work in this program, which is basically that, just encouraging students to go and pursue further education in the US. I have been in Education USA for 4 years now. So I am very happy to get to work with you guys again, one more year. And now you get to know a little bit about Caro.
Hey. So I think we've met with many of you, but my name is Carolina Talatinian. I've been with Education USA since December 2019. I was so happy that I would work in international education and I would be traveling for work, and then the pandemic hit. But it was fun anyway at the beginning because I got to learn everything that I needed to learn during my first year when I was at home, and it was a great year to learn because everybody was connected and we worked so much with so many universities in the US online that it was a great opportunity for me to learn. So I am too an English teacher. I worked in primary, in secondary schools, bilingual schools. I worked also, as Emil said, coordinating a secondary school. I'm finishing my master's degree in education. I'm doing research in internationalization programs around the um, the city, the province of Buenos Aires. And I also applied for a Fulbright scholarship. And through that scholarship, I got to spend an amazing year at a very small college. Back then, it was called Sierra Nevada College in the borders between Nevada and California. So it was a very small private liberal arts college, and it was one of the best experiences I've had in my life. I learned a lot there. I taught Spanish, I taught English, English composition. And also assisted classes like education classes and also cultural management classes for a marketing class. Very weird stuff that I did there, but it was also because in the US, they have this. One of the things I like about the US is that they see your capabilities and they give you opportunities given your abilities, right? Your skills. And that's what happened to me in this college. I went there to teach Spanish and I ended up doing so many other things there. And it was really, for me, a moment where I learned and I grew as a professional a lot. So I owe that very small college a lot, really. And then as you see in the map, that those are the states that I know. That year I got to travel a lot, but also this job gives us the opportunity to travel a little bit. And whenever we travel for conferences, we also get to do campus visits. So I've seen so many different universities, right? And I can see why it's sometimes a bit hard for you to choose a manageable number of universities to apply to, because there are so many amazing opportunities there that it's really hard sometimes to choose just only 10 or 12 to apply to. So, but don't worry, we're here to help you do that. So yeah, I'm super happy to start this 6, 7 year, I don't know, I'm not good at math, but 6th year, I think, working with you guys. I love working with teenagers. It's my favorite part of this job, working with teenagers. So welcome to everybody to this amazing cohort, the 2026 cohort. And I'm sorry, but now we are going to show you all the work you will be doing this year.
That's
Oh,
right.
no, wait,
So
there.
get ready for a busy year. Don't get don't panic because we are here to help you, as Gada said. Um, but we wanted you to have, just a glimpse of what the year is going to look like. Mainly because we know that you will be working with school stuff and, exams. Some of you are planning your graduation trips. So you might as well have in mind that during the different months, we will be focusing on certain parts of the application that you would need to pay attention to. These are suggestions, but we strongly suggest that you stay organized and that you use calendars, that you use your apps. We have many resources and materials that will help you get organized as well. Today, we're going to speak about choosing the universities you're going to apply to. So we have spreadsheets that are going to make that task a little bit easier. But we are going to be working on all of that. Some things might be new to you, so you might not understand what Common App is, or when we say financial aid application, that might not be very clear now. But we promise that with time, as you gain more information and you get to work with us, everything will be falling out in place, right? So don't worry about it. And for April or May, that is coming very, very quickly, we would ask you and we would recommend that you start practicing for exams. We talked about the exams on the first session, so you know that you might be required to sit for the SAT exam or ACT exam, but also for the English test. So practice for the exams. That is a very good way to start the year. Then researching universities. That's our topic today. Working on extracurriculars. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next in next sessions. But you know already a little bit about that. And then you will need to start thinking about what you will need from your school, okay? So as your school will help you in this process, you will need some backup documents and files from them, and we will help you ask for them and get them as well, okay? All right.
Sure. And we will be working with you every step of the way for all these things that for most of the things that we are telling you you should be doing. We will be having a session, right? So no need to worry. We are not going to train you on the exams, right? So I got an email asking that, I think. I couldn't reply it, but that's something you should be doing on your own, practicing for exams, for the English exams and for the SATs. So we're not going to focus on that during these sessions, but any questions that you have regarding taking those exams, please let us know, okay? Today, we will be focusing on the very first step, which is researching your options. So you know by now that Education USA divides the process into 5 steps. And the first step is researching your options. There are more than 4,500 universities in the US. Yes, 4,500 universities in the US. For you to have an idea, in Argentina, more or less, if I'm not mistaken, we have 130 universities. So you see the difference already. And sometimes it's hard to choose a manageable number of universities to apply to. We're not going to, at least our suggestion is not to apply to 1 or 2 universities, right? Our suggestion is to apply to a manageable number of universities. Generally, students apply to 8, 10. It depends on the personality and the organizational skills of the student. But we generally tell you, okay, apply for a manageable number of universities. And to come up with that university list, you need to do the process of researching your options, seriously. So by now, you also know that we always recommend choosing universities that are a good fit for you. We keep repeating this word, find your best fit. And what does that mean? It means that you should find institutions that match your aptitudes, your skills, right? Your needs, your values, and your goals, your objectives, when you're considering this set of universities that you're going to apply to. So what's the best way to choose, to find those universities that match these things? Well, research, right? The more information you have, the better decisions you're going to make. And at this stage, you probably are familiar with this image here, right? Of all the things that we need to consider when choosing a university, right? When there are different variables that we have to bear in mind when choosing a university. That's why sometimes it's not an easy decision, because there's so many things that we have to consider, right? And let's have a look at some of them, right? So we always talk about different kinds of institutions. You can have 2-year institutions, community colleges, or 4-year institutions, college universities. That's what generally our students choose to do. Some universities used to do first community college and then go to a 4-year college. If that's something you're interested in, you can ask us what the process looks like. State universities versus private universities. In private universities, you generally have more opportunities for financial aid than in state schools, because state schools, the priority are those people who live in those states, right? Then you have differences regarding the curriculum. You have liberal arts curriculum, where you have more flexibility to explore different areas, fields of study, fields that you're interested in. And then you have major-based curriculum, right? Like there are universities where you have to apply to a specific school, the School of Engineering, of Business, of Humanities. So you don't apply to the college in general, you apply to a school within the college. And then size, right? It's another thing that we always consider. How close am I going to be to the teacher? Am I going to be in a classroom with other 200 people? Will I like that? Or would I prefer smaller classes, like maybe me and 8 other students, and we become very familiar and very close to the teacher? These are things that you have to start considering regarding your experience. Then We have location, right? We know that many Argentinians choose to go to Florida, but that's not the only state, right? There are 50 states, so do not reduce your list to just Florida states, please. Florida universities. There's selectivity, right? There, the acceptance rate. There are universities that have an acceptance rate that is more friendly than others. And then you have very specific universities, right? Like all men's colleges, all women's colleges, HBCUs, religious colleges, Hispanic serving institutions. There's a lot to choose from. And of course, something very important, and for you, maybe the most important, is life on campus, right? As first-year students, first-year international students, most universities require that at least the first year you live on campus, right? So your life, whether you like it or not, but most of your life, of your non-academic life will also be on campus. So it's important also to, when you're doing research, to look at these things, right? The activities offered on campus, the clubs, the sports, right? If it's sports at the competitive level, it's if you are interested in sport, but more something, for fun. There's a lot of events, free events that go on campus. There's the Greek life, the famous Greek life, the sororities, the fraternities that exist in some universities, and um, it can be really interesting. There's internships opportunities, jobs on campus, study abroad opportunities, and different kinds of housing options. So there's a lot that goes on campus, and there's a lot you need to define or start defining about the experience you want to have while you're there to find it, right? And then, of course, and we always set aside a slide for this, is the availability of financial aid and scholarships for international students. So one of the very first things we suggest doing is exploring the availability of financial aid. Some terms we want to highlight is some universities are need blind. That means that universities do not consider your financial profile. So they look at your academic profile. If they like you, then they give you all the financial aid you need. Of course, those universities are the most competitive ones, like the famous ones. There are some universities that are not that famous, but they are also need blind. So it's important that you have that in mind. Then you have to know the difference between merit-based scholarships, which have to do 100% with your academic profile, and need-based scholarships, which have to do with your financial aid profile. And then a very important term to always have in mind when you're talking to admissions officers from universities or when you're doing your research is this. If the university says that they meet 100% of financial need, right? That means that if they admit you, like they give you admission to the university, they will be looking at your financial profile and they will be offering you a scholarship that meets all the funds that you need. They're going to analyze your financial profile and they are going to give you a scholarship that is in keeping with your with that profile. Okay. Of course, this is like bird's eye view of financial aid. We'll be talking more in detail about this. And of course, I want to just mention this word loans. I'm sure you know this already, which is préstamos, right? We do not want you to fall into a loan, right? But you're going to see this on websites and we want to make sure that we know that you know that that exists. Whew. So again, to find the right fit and to come up with, like, to put all these preferences together and be able to put together a university list. As we always say, and I've said before, research is key. So how can we help you? So we're going to give you some suggestions on how to do research, okay? First piece of advice. There are many college search engines. So you have more than 4,000 colleges. The first thing you do is, okay, I'm going to use college search engines to apply different filters and see what these college engines give me back. So for example, one we recommend a lot is Big Future from College Board, right? There, you imagine you want to go to, I don't know, California, you want to go to a small town, you want to do a major in environmental engineering, you want, I don't know, you want to be able to do certain activities in your free time. Okay, so you start applying all those filters so that you get a manageable list of universities, right? To then do a more detailed research. We have other theirs. UVisit is for virtual campus tours. Unigo and collegedata.com are more of, I think these are services that universities pay to be there. So explore those, but take those as one more source of information. I think College Data is also, students leave reviews there. Then the Princeton Review and Niche are also very famous. Better for graduate maybe, but they're still good for undergraduate. And then you'll see the rankings of US News. And again, as the note says there, one other suggestion is to just use ranking pages like US News only to gather more information, right? Because you're going to see top 10 colleges for engineering, okay? But the fact that there's 10 colleges there on that list does not mean that it's going to be the best university for you. So just use it as one more source of information. Once you have done this very first, reduce this list to a manageable one, now is the time to explore the websites of each university in detail. Especially look for the information on admissions for international students. Okay, there you'll see the requirements of each university, the financial aid offer for international students. If you can't find information for international students, that's a message. Maybe they're not interested in international students, okay? Generally, all universities are, but there are universities that are more interested in welcoming international students than others. Then contact admissions officers from colleges if you start having questions. You're going to see on the websites of universities that they generally have the admissions officers information contact information on the website. Do not hesitate to reach out to them, okay? They are very friendly, so go for it. Also follow social media, follow these universities on social media and try to attend events, okay? Especially follow the admissions accounts. And also check out the common data set of each university. The common data set is a list of key information that each university always prepares and is available online. So you'll have requirements for exams, or the scores, the statistics of the people who were admitted. So that's key information that you can also consider to put together your list. And of course, reach out to alumni. Okay, that we have a big network of alumni that is super ready to help you guys. And last but not least, some common mistakes to avoid. Number one mistake to avoid, I'm dying here. Can you go on?
Yes, of course. I was just going to ask if you would like me to. So, as we've seen some students during these years do certain things, we learned from those experiences, and we saw that, for example, the first universities that you have in mind when thinking of applying are Ivy Leagues, of course. But we say, okay, prestige is okay, they are amazing, but you would need to look for the one that is good for you. One university in which you can get make the most of what that university is going to offer, but also a university in which you can thrive, and that you can also give the best of you, right? We are going to speak about your best fit, or your best match for universities, but this is the first thing we always ask you to have in mind. Then number two has to do with financial reality. And by financial reality, we say, okay, studying in the US is super expensive. US universities do give scholarships, but you need to know that not all of them give full rides. So if you can meet what the amount of money that you need to meet to study in the US, you would need to be aware of that. You need to talk to your parents about your financial possibilities and make sure you choose those universities that you will be able to afford, right? Caro, would you like to say something else on
I
this
think I
point?
can go on. No, it's
Good.
exactly that. It's based on our experience. So even if I put together this slide and Emil said maybe didn't have, I mean, this is something I put together at the very last minute, but this is based on very common mistakes. So Emmy, you were just on point on what I was thinking. Sometimes we just make mistakes and end up applying to universities that are not offering financial aid. And then you're admitted, but you can't attend because maybe this stage, you didn't look for the information on financial aid properly. So one piece of advice is, if you don't see the word international student in the section of financial aid and it's not clear, write to them, okay? Write to admissions officers asking this specifically. I need you to go on, Emmy. Sorry, I'm going
Yes,
to add.
absolutely.
I'm
So
dying here. It's been
in
a
number
while.
three, yeah, sometimes that happens. In number three, we get building an unbalanced list. And again, we know that Ivy Leagues get your attention, that maybe you want to try many of these Ivy Leagues, but we say, okay, that might not be the most strategic approach. So you will get to know about three terms that we use in order to categorize universities in your lists. So these are going to be rich universities, target universities, and safeties. By rich, we mean universities that, okay, are very prestigious, that it is very hard to get in, that have very low acceptance rates. So those universities are kind of a reach for us. We still encourage you to apply to those. but don't apply to 10 of those. You want some balance. So maybe applying to 2 or 3 of those, then applying to 2 or 3 target universities. These are universities in which your skills and all your background is going to match perfectly with what the university is looking for. So universities that might require the exam scores that you are currently having. These universities seem to be more comfortable for you, and they are the right match as regards, requirements, as I was saying. And then you've got safeties. Safeties are these universities that, are a little bit less, and they're a little bit less demanding, for example, on scores, that have maybe more high percentage of people that they admit. So in these universities, you're almost sure you're going to get a positive answer and that you have highly chances of getting in. So this is what we mean by building a balanced list. This is what you should do. Then number 4, Kara mentioned rankings some minutes ago. So rankings are a great way to get more information about schools, about universities, but you have to take them just as one more source of information, not as something that you would decide upon reading these rankings. We as in Argentina, sometimes rankings is such a foreign concept to us, because even though we do have university rankings, sometimes the prestige goes we get that from other ways. But well, and number 5 is not asking for help. So look, there are many, many, many people that are here willing to help you, starting with us advisors, because that's our job. But then also we said alumni, people from our programs, university counselors and admissions officers. They have a lot of information, and that's also a great way to get to know about universities. There are also people that are alumni who are working at international offices or at admissions offices, and who can tell about their experiences as students, and they're also a great source of information, and they also get paid to do the job. So we know that there are many, many, many people willing to help you. So ask for help, but ask for help actively. We know that it can be uncomfortable. Maybe you don't know how to do it. We will help you by asking you to, first of all, to communicate in English. So that's why we have these sessions in English. Also, writing emails. That's a very important part of contacting officers or alumni or people that are going to help you. So we're going to practice that. But first of all, you have to, if you are shy, this is your chance to improve and to get out there and to start speaking with, to being more confident and go and get the information you're trying to look for.
Thank you, Emmy, for rescuing me. And it was exactly what you said was exactly what I was thinking. And this shows that, it's the most common things that we find every year in admissions processes, right? So now we're going to we know that this is a lot of information that we've dumped on you, but there you have plenty of instances to come to us and ask us questions. We'll have questions at the end. But now we are super happy to have a person that is for me, is super special. He was the first student that was admitted with a full ride while I was working in my first year here in Education USA. Juliano Richeta. He's from Cordova. Now he'll introduce himself, but he studied his undergraduate. He did his undergraduate degree in Pomona College, and now he's a PhD candidate. He'll be starting soon at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we're super proud of him. So, Julie, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? You see me all good?
Yes,
All right,
yes.
awesome.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for joining us. Emmy, can he share screen? Alrighty, awesome. So Julie, it's great to be here. The other day, he came by our offices because he had not seen an Education USA office because he applied during the pandemic while we were all at home. So he got to the USA without getting to see an Education USA advising office. So it was nice to see you, Shuli, the other day. Thank you for joining us today. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you to share with you, if you haven't planned to do so, is tell them a little bit about how you found out about Pomona, because Pomona is not the typical, we always hear Harvard, Columbia, and NYU, MIT, right? But Pomona, maybe we don't hear it that often. So if at some point in your presentation you can mention that, we'll be happy to hear that story. So the floor is all yours, Julie. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I used to have a better presentation, but I lost it. It just faded. So this is like a new shorter one. It's mostly pictures, but if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt. But yeah, this is a little bit of my experience, like Gato said, about doing college in the US. I was a Opportunity Fund student back in 2020, big year, with a lot of crazy stuff happening. I'm sure we all know, but yeah, I was applying during COVID, so um, it was kind of a different process than it is now in some ways because a lot of stuff had to be, online. We couldn't do our SATs, like our standardized testing. So a lot of those were optional, which I'm not sure a lot of universities are still doing that. Um, but because it was COVID and I also had like online school, that also meant that I had a lot of time. So I put in a lot of time into my research, and that's kind of how I got to this small liberal arts college called Pomona College. But it's not quite little because it's like 1,600 people, but we're in a consortium of five liberal arts colleges. So it's Pomona College, Harvey Mudd College, Scripps College, Claremont McKenna College, and Pitzer College. So those are five colleges that all five of them have financial aid for international students and usually full ride financial aid. So there you go, five colleges that offer international financial aid. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, like Gato said, I was doing a lot of research. I was on different, these like search engines, Big Future. I remember Niche being a big one as well. So I went to a kind of small high school. My high school was like 20 people. Like my class was 20 people. So I knew that I wanted to stay in sort of like a smaller environment. I wasn't quite ready to make the jump to like a 500 student auditorium for my classes. I just still wanted to keep the experience kind of, you know, um, tight knit and all that. So I knew that I wanted to go to a smaller college, and I also have a lot of interests. So my major was in chemistry, so I studied chemistry in college. You can see right here in the middle. These are all my chemistry friends, and we're all having like our end of semester, end of college dinner. Um, but yeah, I mean, I knew that I wanted to go to a smaller college, so that also factored into my decision to apply for Pomona College. And yeah, I mean, obviously financial aid was a big choice, but that's kind of how I found this college. And like Karen and Emisa were saying, a lot of people like focus on the Ivies, and while they do offer a lot of really good aid, and they are great schools, obviously, there's a whole world out there. So yeah, just make sure to like just check all the other universities out there because Pomona College and the Claremont colleges, those are great options as well. And they gave me a full ride and they gave me a lot of financial help and really made it possible for me to study in the US. So yeah, this is a little bit of how my journey started. This is me when I was like 18 years old. That's like 5 years ago. Um, that's me with Kato and Gio, the former Education USA advisor. They were my advisors when I was an Opportunity Fund student, and this is the first time that we actually met each other in person. Was the day that I was about to leave for the United States. So it was like our one and only picture together. It's quite cute. It's quite a nice memory of that day. My last day here in Argentina before I moved to the US to start my college journey. Um, And when I arrived, like I said, I got into Pomona. Um, I was admitted in December 2020 because it was early decision, and you're gonna learn about that later. But there's different um, like timelines to apply to college. You have early versus regular decisions, and I applied early, so by December 2020, I already had like an admission. But I only moved into Pomona in August 2021. And when I got there, the campus was empty because no one was there. It was COVID. Students were just flying in. And I remember we had a week of quarantine. International students had to quarantine for a week before we actually got to be like around other students, right? Because we were flying from international countries. So I remember like being there and like my only chances to go outside was to get tested for COVID because I had to test every other day. And I remember like seeing this beautiful, beautiful campus was it was all empty, and I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. But I mean, it was beautiful, and it's a beautiful campus. Pomona and the Five Seas. Um, has this like is like located in like this beautiful valley between LA and sort of like the San Gabriel Mountains in sort of the coast like the like between the coast of California and like the mountains that are like by Nevada. So it's like this really beautiful location and this sunny weather all year round. It doesn't get colder than like 10 degrees Celsius. Like it's super, super nice, super, super pleasant. And yeah, just very lush, very beautiful college campus. And I really enjoy just, being able to walk around this scenery. And another part that I really liked about being a science student and studying in the US was getting to travel a lot. So I was able to travel to a lot of conferences to present my research. So, I was a chemistry student and my specialty was chemical microbiology. So I worked in a lab that was sort of like the intersection between biochemistry, microbiology, and chemistry, like organic chemistry. So I was doing a lot of basically developing a lot of chemical tools to understand how bacteria worked at a genetic level. So basically trying to see if certain like pieces of DNA in bacteria, specific sequences of DNA in bacteria would bind to specific proteins that we were looking at. And I was specifically working with the cholera bacteria. So, really cool research that I had no idea about before I went to college. And frankly, like it was like I just emailed my professor who ended up being like my research advisor and my thesis advisor. And a nice thing about the US is that there's like there's a really thriving um academic community, and there's a lot of conferences and places to present your research. I did a lot of science research, so that's where my conferences were. But even if you do like linguistics or you do like I don't know um like Emilio was saying, like feminist studies or things like that, like like social sciences, humanities, um, math, physics. Like there's a lot of different conferences, and usually universities will pay for those. So these are two opportunities that I had to go to SACNAS, which is in Portland, and ASBMB, which is the Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, was in Chicago. Um, so, got to travel a little bit more. I also got to travel abroad while I was abroad. I did a semester in Ireland at University College Dublin, which was also amazing because I had a fantastic time. I had a terrific time while I was in Dublin. I got to, travel around Ireland. I got to travel around Europe a little bit and I got to make new friends. I was studying at University College Dublin, and the great thing was that I didn't pay for a single um, dollar for this trip. In fact, I got paid to study abroad because when you study abroad, at least at Pomona College, they give you a like $2,000 check. So you go abroad and they give you money to spend there. And I didn't have to pay for food. I didn't have to pay for like my flights. I didn't have to pay for I don't know, like my accommodation. Obviously, my university was also free. So, it was all covered in my scholarship. So I got paid to study abroad and be in Ireland, which was like an amazing experience. I got, and another really cool thing was that I went to a really small school, which was like again 1,600 people. That's like I don't even know, like really like quite tiny in terms of the size of the institution. And then when I was abroad, I was at University College Dublin, which has like around 30,000 students, which is almost like 20 times the amount of students that my university had, right? So it was like a radically different experience, and I'm so glad that I also had to experience that because now I'm going into grad school knowing what it's like to go to a bigger school, right? So I have both experiences sort of under my sleeve now, and I mean the traveling is always welcome and always beautiful. So I highly encourage you to study abroad if that's something you're interested in. I remember I was a little bit like hesitant because I remember thinking, oh, I'm already like studying abroad, like I'm already um traveling from so far away. I moved from Argentina all the way to the United States. I don't know if I should be doing this, but I highly recommend it. It's I mean, I kind of have the traveling bug. That's also why I went to the US in the first place. Um, so it was an amazing experience. I'm so glad I got to do it again. But yeah, that was like a little bit of a fun experience that I had while I was studying in college. And then, yeah, I mean, being a chemistry student, a lot of time was spent in lab. This is me with some of my friends. Um, I mean, I'm glad to call them my friends. We all started as like classmates, but then we ended up becoming like a really close group of people. The chemistry department was known for being the most fun one, so we kind of have that reputation. And yeah, we have like a whole like lab coat ceremony where we get like lab coats that have our names. I don't know if you can see like the stitchery like on the left side of my lab coat, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty much what my experience looked like, was being in lab a lot because I was in lab. I think I want to say like 4 out of 5 afternoons a week, so that's like almost 20 hours a week. That's kind of like a part-time job, and but I really loved it, and the people were really what made it much more manageable, and part of the big reason why I ended up choosing to go to grad school to have my make like do my PhD and continue doing research. So yeah, that was a pretty fun part of being a science student in college. And I also did a few internships over the summer. So my first internship, well, my first year, I stayed at Pomona College. I was just working at a lab, and I was also working for admissions. So I was, just kind of, just trying to, just get my foot in, get more research experience, become like have like a more competitive edge. Boost my CV a little bit. And then my sophomore year, which is the second year, my sophomore summer, I went to Rockefeller University in New York, which was honestly like a dream for me because I was obsessed with going to this institution. So I was an intern there for a summer, which is 10 weeks, and I got to work in a grad lab. So basically a graduate level lab, and just basically be surrounded by, all of this really advanced, complex research that was happening. I got to, kind of get a taste of this life a little bit because I was like an undergraduate student, so most of what I was doing was doing classes and then going to the labs and then doing my own research, but then it was very basic compared to what grad students do. So I got to work with PhD students, I got to work with postdocs. It was a great, very formative experience, and I also got to live in the city of New York for an entire summer, which is amazing. And then I was so happy with that experience that I decided to apply right across the street to Weill Cornell, um, which is like sort of part of the same consortium with Rockefeller and Memorial Sloan Kettering. So I was back in New York City for another summer, and this is me with my friend Antonio. We both met our first summer at Rockefeller, and then he ended up being a grad student there. He's a year older than me, and I was there for like another summer of fun research. So those are two really fun internships that I got to do. And those are really common as well if you end up studying in the US. Those are really nice because you get paid, you usually get housing, you get to meet a lot of new people, and you get to spend your summers doing something fun, doing something maybe different, something that not as academic. And yeah, I mean it's a great way to like, keep, boosting your CV and um keep moving forward. And May 2025, I graduated after a fleeting 4 years because it went by so fast, and it was really fun. I loved it. I love my experience studying there. It was obviously a very emotional day, but I mean, me and all my friends were just so happy to have completed this journey. And it's actually quite crazy now being it's going to be a year now. Quite soon, I would say. Like in 3 weeks, it's going to be a year since I graduated. I'm starting grad school in a few months, so it's like it feels like everything's going super fast. But it's been a nice journey, and I'm excited to get back into the lab. I'm excited to keep working in science, and it was like a great experience, and I mean the amount of memories that I made, the amount of opportunities that I was able to experience, the amount of places that I got to visit, the amounts of people that I got to talk to, those were all really invaluable things for me. And there's really no prize that you can um, sort of give to those things. Those are quite priceless memories and experiences and things. So I would say that for all of the effort that this process requires, especially now when you feel so far away from it, because you're still applying, you're still doing your research, and you really don't really know, and you have a lot of tests and requirements, and a lot of times it feels like you're being sort of um you're sort of being like demotivated, so you don't do it. I would say, like, if it's really something that you're interested in, if it's really something that motivates you, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's really worth it. And when you see like when I see all the things that came after I applied for colleges and I had that crazy year just sending applications and doing all that, I really am I'm very grateful for that. And so that's like a message to all of you that are just like starting this process. Just like keep going, feel free to take breaks when needed, ask for help, help one another. This is like not a competition, it's not a race. Um everyone deserves like the same chance. So, just don't just, keep going. And yeah, that's my message for you. Just keep just, just if it's something that really really moves you, and it's something that you really want to experience, then definitely try it. And when you need help, ask for help. Those would be my biggest pieces of advice for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Julie. We're going to open it up for questions if you want to write them on the chat box, or if you feel like unmuting yourself and asking questions or raising your hand so that we can do this in order. Because we're many people today, so we're happy about that. So there's something in the chat box, right? Oh, that's a good one. Santiago is asking, what piece of advice would you give us to cut down our university list? Like he has 25.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say maybe like start with knowing how many you want to end up applying to. So, it'd be like, oh, I want to apply to like around like 10 or 12, right? So then at least you have like a number like that you want to reach. You have like a goal. And then, key things like if financial aid is an important thing, then cut down with that. If you feel like, like intuition is really like, it's really strong. And if you really feel like there's a place that you don't see yourself going, um, and then, you feel that pressure, like, oh, like I should apply to this place because like it's an Ivy League school X, but it's not a place where you see yourself, then that's a great way of knowing, like, I don't feel particularly like a good way about this school, so I'm not gonna apply to it. And then yeah, if there's more specific things like academics that you're interested in, if there's like specific things like, if you want to do like engineering, and you end up applying for a school, like you end up like researching a school that is more like liberal arts based and doesn't have an engineering department, then maybe that's another like thing to look at. But yeah, I would say like first things first, just like set a goal of like this is the number of universities that I'm going to apply to. Um, and then just have a number set. And then from there you can sort of start trimming from there.
Yeah, I'm going to add talk to people that have gone
Hmm.
there talk to them about their college life. That's always a good idea to do that. Because sometimes hearing from somebody who has had an experience there can help. Sometimes it doesn't, because maybe it was their particular experience, right? But it helps getting the field, a feel of the kind of university, right? To talk to people and to see what they are doing, what they are involved in. It's also a good idea to. We did this exercise. We used to do it. We're not doing it generally, but there's something, in the website. There's always like a list of values that the university represents. So something you want to do is also look at the kinds of values the universities are defending. And if that is something that you feel identified with, that's another way of cutting down the list, right? Because the values they're talking about is, many programs, many things are going to be going towards those values. So that's when you start doing a more detailed uh, investigation, right? You have 20, that's good. 25, that's good. Now it's the moment for you to start doing this fine tuning in your list,
Hmm.
looking at those details.
I see a question about how difficult was the transition from studying and living in Spanish to do it in English for you? I would say you kind of don't think about it much when everything's like boom, everything's in English now. At least for me, I remember like obviously like there's some things that you have to pick up on, but because the bulk of work is sort of like there and there's not really a lot of buffer, and also because I like a lot of you like I'm guessing the majority of you have already a good level of English, good enough that you're applying to these universities and that you'll eventually be accepted. It's quite like the like especially like when you're in an academic environment, it's quite easy to start sort of like making that switch. And I would say like for me, and honestly, all of my well, yeah, I would say all of my international friends who did not have English as their first language, we all adapted quite quickly. And it's something that it really helps, like the fact that everyone is speaking the same language, but at the same time, it's good to still have people that you can speak your native tongue with, and that's also a good thing to keep in mind. Like, do you want to go to a place that has a lot of diversity in that sense, like has a lot of like people coming from different countries, people speaking different languages. Like for me, like Pomona was a place that had a lot of Latin American students, so I was still able to speak Spanish and do all that. But I would say that the English, that at least the academic part, because it was so like sudden, like everything's in English now, and also I was basically doing this process in English for a year before that. I would say it was quite smooth. It doesn't look quite like it now, but it'll get easier.
I'm just going to add, there's also, if you're worried, if you're super worried about the transition, in universities, they generally have international staff that like are there to help you all in all the process, and you have tutoring sessions. Like you can do tutoring in English, in maths, in anything that you need. So that's the reason why universities in the US are so expensive. The thing is that there's a lot of support services on campus for you just to make sure that the transition is smooth. And if it's not smooth for any reason, that you have a person to turn to. So learning to ask for help, as we've been saying from the very beginning, is really important, right? Go ahead with the rest of the questions, Julie. You have many.
Yeah, I see a hand raised. Alvaro?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience. I was curious about the financial aid that you received. I don't know if maybe you can
Hmm.
explain that and dive into it a little deeper so that we know or we have some, I don't know, sort of idea of what it covered for you.
Everything. It covered everything. It was Pomona's. Again, Pomona has full rights for international students. It is a need-aware school, so I mean, it means that they take um, your financial needs into consideration when you're applying. But I mean, they're still quite generous, and I would say that there's a lot of students, a lot of internal students with really good financial aid. In my case, I remember I had to pay like very little um my first year, but like again, like really, really little. And then yeah, that was only my first year. Second, third, fourth year, it was all covered, and on top of that, I worked. I worked as a TA. Well, I worked in a coffee shop my first year, and then I worked as a TA the remaining years. So I was able to make extra money that I was just like saving for like, I don't know, personal expenses, like if I wanted to travel with friends and stuff. So anything that was, um obviously like tuition, fees, living costs, food was also included. I had like a full meal plan, healthcare, which is really important in the US because it can be really expensive. Even like yeah, even taxes. Like I didn't have to pay taxes. In fact, I got taxes back. Um, so yeah, none of that I had to worry about. So I would say really good. And they really honor the full ride thing.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And then I have a question from Theo. It's like, how important was your GPA to get admitted, and what exams did you take, like the SAT or TOEFL? So, kind of knows the struggle with the SAT. We studied for the SAT. We had like, yeah, we put in like a lot of effort, but then it kept getting canceled because it was COVID and nothing was open. And then my year, all universities went test optional, which is a decision they're slowly reverting now. But I didn't take the SAT, but I did study for it. And I did have to take the TOEFL. I did the TOEFL online. Um, and I did those two. I did that test. I didn't do the SAT. And how important was GPA? So admissions are holistic, so that means that they take into account all of the aspects of your application, right? So your essay, your recommendations, your GPA. I would say it was important in the context of, me being like a high school student from Argentina and like me having um obviously it was important to have good grades and to have like different distinctions like being having like a good average, being like underado, those things like valedictorian, whatever they call them. So those things are important because if you apply for colleges that have a more like a smaller acceptance rate, like a lower acceptance rate, then those GPA will matter quite a lot. But I mean, again, it's very holistic, and also, we do not have the same system that they have. We have like a system from 2 to 10 or like 0 to 10. They have a system from 0 to 4, right? So, admission officers are quite trained to like make those translations. So don't worry too much about how your GPA translates to the US system. Just try to have good grades, keep your good grades up, don't let those go down. Um, and yeah, I mean, if there's anything you have to tell, like, if maybe there was a class that you were just getting lower grades on, but you put in a lot of effort and you raise your scores, that's a great thing to mention. Because they look also not only at your numbers, but also at the story that you tell. So, if you were struggling in school, but then you got better, or if something happened, like some personal circumstance happened, there's like places where you can explain that in your application as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So in your case, Juliana, your GPA was very important because you didn't have the SATs.
True.
So
Yeah.
maybe if you didn't have a good GPA, maybe they wouldn't have considered him, right?
hmm
Um, Having the SATs can be a good resource now for students who maybe they didn't do amazing in high school because they wanted to have fun, or maybe they didn't do the homework, the kind of student who is super bright but prioritizes other things maybe. So if that resonates with you, and if you're that kind of student, having a good SAT score might compensate the fact that maybe you didn't have a 10, a 950 a GPA, right? Because universities in the US are interested in everything, every aspect of who you are, right? So they're not going to ditch you only because you don't have an amazing GPA. So these decisions, whether to present the SAT scores or not, if the GPA is important or not, it depends on the person and on the profile, right? So, but yeah, that's a great question, actually.
There's a question about being a transfer student. I don't know how to answer that, Caro, so maybe I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, I didn't read the question, but yeah, there's a possibility of transferring always, but the issue with transferring as an international student, you started here. If you started here and you are thinking about transferring to, is that the case? Who asked that question so that I can track it?
Rosario in the chat.
Rosario, I've already graduated high school and right now I'm a university student. Look at the schedule. Okay. Okay, so you're studying here. It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing, for example, the CBC at UVA, that's not considered college credit. But if you already started studying, the core subjects of your course of study, then that's considered that you will have to transfer. The issues with transferring, we generally do not recommend transferring, but we do have a case of an example of a student who did transfer, Luca, and I don't remember the university. Luca Idiart, he was Opportunity Funds. Oh no, he did not transfer. He did not transfer. He started his classes like a CBC. It was not the CBC, but it was similar. And then he applied. No, he did transfer. Because not many students, no, Emmy, you remember well.
No, I think they took some of the subjects he did as credit, but he started as a first year.
Okay, so that's why he transferred. So he told them that if they took credit of the classes he took, that means he transferred. That's why he didn't have
We
a
might
very
need to
big
ask
leap.
him.
Yeah,
might
we
need
will
to
ask
him
him.
again.
But again, it was having started college, it meant for him that he had to find universities that were going to admit the coursework he did, and that reduced the number of universities, right? We generally do not recommend transferring because first, they do not take all the credits. They do not give you all the credits you deserve for all the classes you have taken, right? Generally, it's way less than you deserve from all the work you do. And then it's harder to get financial aid. I've been here for 7 years, 6-ish, and Luca is the one and only example of something similar to transferring that I've heard, right? So it's actually not transferring. He was admitted, but some of his classes were taking as credit. But again, it's not that common. So if you already started, maybe a good thing is to go on studying and or if you really want to study in the US, maybe try being admitted in a university in the US and do other kinds of activities this year, like working or taking courses. But yeah, that's a hard decision to take, Rosario, for sure.
I see a question that says, what part of your application do you think was the game changer? Was it a specific essay, your sports achievements, or a personal project? For sure it was not my sports achievements, I can tell you that. But I don't know. I don't know what the game I don't know if I mean speaking about myself, I don't know if I had a game changer. I know that people have like really cool, like they have like a project and they have this passion project and they win awards and they like they're like they go in the news and they have like all these things. I was more like a more average student in the sense that I was involved in high school activities. Like I did like projects with like the local government. I did like science Olympiads, so, like other types of things, activities like that were sort of contained within my school. But I think I was quite consistent with those because like, every opportunity that I had to do something outside of the classroom I took. And I think that with that context that helped in a way. Um, yeah, and then I would say like, essay, I worked a lot on the essay. I had like four different essays, so I know I sort of kept trying. So it was sort of like this exercise that I really kept sort of polishing in order to like, have like a nice essay. And then I mean, yeah, I mean I think I had good recommendation letters because I asked teachers that I really liked and that who really liked me and who could, talk about me in a positive way. So that was also really important. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had like I don't know what my admission officers thought when they read my application. I think it was more like more consistency and more like I think that maybe was my personality and showed in the activities that I did and the way that my academics went and the way that I talked about in my essay. But yeah, that's a great question though.
There's a question about extracurricular activities and what's considered most valued when overviewing, like when seeing, evaluating extracurricular activities.
I think like for me now being far away from the application world and then being in college where you still do extracurriculars but just for fun. I would say just be genuine about them, just don't feel pressured. Do things that you think will look good. Do things that you genuinely will enjoy. I don't think like I ever felt like I personally never felt pressure to do anything just because I didn't think I was gonna apply to the college in the US. So everything that I did in high school was pretty much out of my own will. And I think that kind of showed in my application because I did like, science Olympiads, like biology Olympiads. I did like math, English, I don't know, X. Um, I also did like, like this one small local government project. I think like yeah, like student center as well, like student orgs like Centro Estudiantes and that stuff. So I think like just I wouldn't say that there's like stuff that's valued more over the other stuff. Like I know I've also worked a lot with students who come from sort of less privileged backgrounds and a lot of times they only have like two or three activities because they have to work which is really common in the US. Like teenagers have to work a lot of the time, so a lot of their free time gets occupied working. And they're like, oh, I have nothing to talk about. And I'm like, no, you do have something to talk about. You have your work, like you do this very important thing because you need to help your family and yourself. So I would say like there's no like they're not gonna look at your application and be like, oh, look at his versus hers. Like she did something much more cool, and then he did. Like it doesn't work like that at all. It's more like about your own personhood and how those activities inform who you are and who you will be in college. Because in college, no one cares about what activities you do. Like you do them for fun. Like no one is like pushing you. Like there's no outer step. You know. So yeah.
Catalina has a particular question about her situation, and then maybe if you want to come by office hours, we can talk about this in detail so that we can give you like very good advice. But yeah, you can, but there's a difficulty in doing that, but we can talk about this in detail. Uh, come by office hours and we'll talk, okay? Do we have any other questions for Judy? We're running out of time. So,
Seeing,
I'm
did you
sorry.
start? Oh,
Yeah, if you were part of the competitive college club, yes, because opportunity fund students have to be part of the competitive college club. So, oh, that's a good question. How did you learn about everything? When did you start your process? Because Bianca
so
is asking if you were a junior or a senior, right?
I was a senior. I was in my sixth year of high school. Because in Córdoba we have 6 years. And so the reason why I ended up applying to Opportunity Funds was because I applied to Youth Ambassadors, which is another sort of similar program. That's like an interest like an exchange while you're in high school. And I didn't get into that. But while I was applying for that, I ended up learning about Education USA, and then I ended up learning about opportunity funds the summer before. So yeah, as soon as the application came um, out, I just applied, and yeah, just after that, it was just I'll just hope for the best, and then I just things kept happening, and I kept being like, oh, okay, I guess like on to the next stage. And yeah, that's kind of how I found out. But out of just I remember I just wanted to do an exchange, and obviously like I couldn't afford it because it's quite expensive to do an exchange. So I ended up finding this other like exchange opportunity, and even though I didn't get into that, I learned about another opportunity such as opportunity funds.
Like usually we're going to pass it on to Alvaro, and then we're going to wrap
Great, thank
things
you.
up. Yes.
I was wondering, when did you start writing your essays and how long did they take you approximately? Just a quick question.
That yeah, that was a work in progress until the very last application that I sent, because you have like your main essay and then you have like the smaller supplemental essays for each college. Um, I would say that I started around May, June, just because I really wanted to like start writing it, just because like I don't know if it's a good, I don't know what the official timeline is. But I kind of I went more towards the earlier side, just even brainstorming and doing stuff like that. I remember that like it took a couple of months. It was not an easy thing, but it was a lot of work and revisions and getting feedback. So that was really important that I got a lot of feedback from alumni and from obviously Karen and she and my advisors, and it was like a lot of revision and going back, maybe like, oh, this idea won't work, but I have this other idea. So I started quite early, and I highly recommend that because then you don't have to rush. I have friends who wrote their essays in one weekend, and then we both got in, but I do not recommend that, and I don't think they recommend that either.
No, we definitely don't, but then things happen, life happens, right? But yeah, the sooner the better, Alvaro. That's a great
Mhm.
question. We always recommend doing this with time. Then again, for example, we had a student who had been writing her essay for a long while, then on a hunch decided she didn't like her essay and write one in a weekend, and then that essay got her admitted because he had applied with other essays to many universities and they didn't work. But she decided to apply to this other university using that specific essay. We don't know if that was it, but that other essay was great, right? So sometimes this process that starts early gets the juices flowing. You start training your brain to write in English, to write about personal stuff in English, because we're not used to doing that. Generally, we write academic stuff, we write stuff for, standardized tests like Cambridge exams, right? Like very structured, also very structured essays, and reflecting on yourself while writing in English is not that easy. So yes, the sooner the better.
Great, thank you.
Mhm. And she is asking about studying film in the US and how important the SATs, ACTs are. Double check with the universities if it's not required. Maybe your portfolio might be more important to them. Generally, art colleges do not require ACT or ACT. It depends, I have to say. So the research is very important, but we'll keep on talking about this during office hours or some other session. And then Agustin, maybe maybe you know about this. I don't think so. It's very broad, but Agustin asks if I wanted to ask if you see any difference in acceptance rates for international applicants depending on intended academic focus, like humanities, social sciences versus STEM fields.
I have no idea. I also think it's a
No?
very university by
Yeah.
university thing, so I don't want to generalize either.
Yeah. Of course, it might be more difficult to get admitted to certain I mean, if you're planning on studying certain majors, for example, everybody wants to do aerospace engineering now, and everybody wants to do computer science now. So it's more competitive if from the get-go you let them know that you want to do this. And if you let them know that that's the only thing you want to do, right? We can talk about this soon in more detail, but yeah, we can give you examples of students and what they have done. But yeah.
I think one
And
that I can answer is, oh, sorry.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say,
No, I see a lot of questions regarding the admissions process that we can answer, we advisors. So we're going to have plenty of space for that during our sessions and during office hours. If there's any other questions for Juliano about his experience as a student in the US, speak now or forever hold your peace, because we're rounding this off right now because we want to respect everybody's time. So apparently nobody else has a question. Oh, let's finish with this one. Santi is asking if it was easy to make friends.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was something that I was quite worried about actually. But it was more like an internal worry because I didn't I didn't want to like worry people around me, but I remember being super worried. But then, no, really, everyone goes there wanting to make friends, and you're dropped off in this weird place. But the thing is that everyone is being dropped off in this weird place as well. So you're all trying to navigate this place, and yeah, I mean, I made some beautiful connections there, and it was everywhere. I know if I mean it helped that I went to a smaller school and I just ran into people, but it was I like my dorm, my classes, and like extracurricular activities that I did, even just friends of friends, parties, like you end up even like I was friends with two other opportunity funds people from Uruguay and Paraguay, who became also like really close friends as well. So I would say like no, I don't think if you really like are worried about that, that means that you will think about it and you will be proactive about it, and no, you'll have a great time.
Thank you, Shuli. Thank you so much. And I know there are some unanswered questions, but yeah, you'll have a lot of space to ask those during office hours and during our next sessions, and we'll be having in-person sessions as well. And we are very looking forward to our little chats here and there. We started to meet some of you, so that's been great. So I'd like to thank you, Shuli, a lot for taking the time to be here. We love it when you come visit us. Thank you a lot. And well, good luck with your PhD.
Thank you.
And who knows, you might be helping, uh, understand more the admissions process of people interested in PhDs in the future. So
Anytime, yeah.
thank you very much,
Of
Julie,
course.
and
Nice meeting you all. Good luck to
see you
everyone.
soon.
Bye.
And thank you, Julie. And I'm going to pass it on to Emmy now, who has she'll be sharing a lot of information about all these spaces where you can come and ask all of the questions. We know we are super aware that you're having lots of questions right now, but you'll see that there's a lot of spaces for you to come with those questions.
Right, so I'm going to try and do this very quick because we've been here for for a long time already. So remember, you can always visit us during virtual office hours. There's one person every day connected, and we're all very happy and glad to help you with your questions. The questions that you have that are very personal, and I've seen that there are some cases in which you're not sure how to approach your applications. This is the best way to get those questions answered because they're very personal. So here in the sessions, the information might be too broad and this is general, but then in these meetings, we can get to know you more and then give you better advice. Remember, there's a 5 steps session coming. This is in Spanish. If you haven't been to any of our 5 step sessions, you should. It's almost compulsory at this point for you to have watched one of these sessions. So you have a chance to join in on April 28th. But if you can't, you can always register and then you get the recording. It's also a good chance to talk to your parents about this process and show them what you're going to be doing during the year. We also have a very interesting webinar on sports scholarships. This is going to be a talk by Texas State University. So if this is something that you're into, if you would like to know a little bit more about this process, which is very particular, we strongly recommend that you join. We're going to share the link to register for this event via email. You know that every time we have a session, we send you the follow-up. So in the follow-up email, we will send and share all these links. We're also going to share the links for the in-person events. One of them is on May 14th, the one in which these 3 universities are visiting. So Vanderbilt, UChicago, and Georgetown are going to be at ICANA. We're going to have a session on the essentials or the keys to top U.S. college admissions. We're going to speak about the application process, financial aid, and more. They're going to give you very good insights on the process. So here is the link, but again, we will share this via email. On the 28th, we have a representative from the George Washington University, and you're going to work together and you're going to look into an admissions case study. This is amazing that you have this chance to do it because he will actually let you know what's going on behind, or I mean, from the other side of the admissions perspective, right? What the admissions officers are looking at. So you're going to be analyzing a profile. You're going to kind of understand the rationale behind what they are thinking when they read your profile. So this one's very interesting. This is going to be at Krupp at Kairos Center. So that's on May 28th at 5 p.m. Again, we're going to share the registration with you soon, registration links. This is just the everyday information. We're meeting on Thursdays from 4:30 to 5:30 or 6 as today. In-person meetings are always recommended. We will share with you the recordings. There is the web page that you can, you're going to find everything there as well. But I think all the rest of the information you know. We will ask you to please recommit to the program. You know, it's the very short form that we send so that we have all the important information on just one page. So that is the only thing that we will ask you to do compulsory. And then here is the QR code to join the WhatsApp group. It's a great way to stay in communication with fellow members of the club. So last Tuesday, for example, we went to Lincoln School, and some of the students say, "Oh, I wanted to see if anybody else was joining, but we don't have the WhatsApp group yet." So we said, "Yes, I still have to send that to you." So again, this is a great channel to share resources, share material, but also if you are planning to attend a session or if you want somebody to take notes for you or something, you can use this as a space to share.
We are
will
not
also be
there.
doing this
We
online.
we
We are not there.
advisors are
Yeah.
not there, so feel free to
Mhm.
Everything with respect. We only ask you to use this WhatsApp group respectfully and only to use it for college admissions matters, right? If you then want to create parallel WhatsApp groups, go ahead and do that. But please keep it to that topic and keep it respectful at all times.
Yay. Amazing. So we are looking forward to keep on working together. We will be talking to you soon and hopefully meeting you in person, to those who are joining us in the in-person sessions. So thank you very much for joining us today. We will be in touch. We hope
See
you